Approaching strangers in public is something that I found difficult to do when I was younger, but has gotten easier with time. When I was given the assignment several months ago to capture a photo of a stranger participating in daily life outside and conduct a short interview with that person, I was eager to get started. I thought a trip down the lakeshore from Oak Harbor to Marblehead would give me plenty of opportunities to meet someone who would agree to participate in my project. It was a beautiful early November day in Northwest Ohio. The air was a little crisp, but the sun was out in full force and the sky never seemed so blue. Maybe I could find someone fishing, or bird watching, or going for a walk, or even just enjoying the lakeshore. It was certainly too nice to sit inside. To my surprise, however, I encountered no one. Not one bird watcher, not one dog walker, not one person casting a line in the water. Not even a park employee or maintenance person. I stopped at all the spots popular with locals and tourists. Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge, McGee Marsh, Camp Perry. No one was participating in any outside activities. With each stop, my hopes dropped a little lower. It's difficult to complete an assignment that involves another person if you don't encounter any people to begin with. I reached Marblehead Lighthouse State Park at about 2 p.m. and decided that would be my last stop. If I didn't find anyone there, I'd have to try again on a different day at a different location. The state park is located in eastern Ottawa County. It's open year-round, though access to the lighthouse and lightkeeper's house is seasonal. It's normally teeming with people, at least in the summer. There were several cars in the parking lot. One was leaving as I pulled in. I grabbed my camera and took a walk around the park. I noticed a couple walking side by side along the rocky shore. They also left before I could catch up with them. I was hungry and tired and slightly discouraged, so I decided to call it a day. Walking back to my car, I noticed a new arrival. A man dressed in a black leather coat and brown cowboy hat and boots had set up a tripod on the rocks. My initial impression, given his clothing, was that he was a preacher or a Johnny Cash impersonator. He appeared to be taking a video of himself and was gesturing as if he was speaking to the camera. It seemed a little odd, given that he was older, not in the usual demographic for this sort of activity. I sat in my car for a few minutes, thinking about where I wanted to stop for lunch. I kept watching the man with the tripod. He seemed so passionate. Who could he be talking to, and what could he be talking about? Maybe here was my story. Did it really just fall into my lap after I decided I was done for the day? But what if I interrupted him? What if he wanted his privacy and rejected me? Those thoughts occupied my head at the same time as something a close friend always tells me. You lose 100% of the shots you don't take. This man might not want anything to do with me or my project. Then again, he might, and I wouldn't know if I didn't even try. I grabbed my camera and approached him. He was in the middle of recording something, whatever it was, and I didn't want to interrupt him or ruin a shot. I observed him for a few minutes. He glanced at me periodically. He was probably as curious as I was. I finally saw the chance to introduce myself and explain what I was doing. He was more than happy to help me with my short feature. I started making adjustments to my camera. He was under a tree and the shadows were strong that day. I was finding it difficult to get a good exposure. As I started shooting, I asked him to tell me a little bit about what he was doing at the lighthouse. He told me that he had a YouTube channel and was recording one of several daily prayers for his followers. He usually did this from a location that allowed him to share the wonders of the natural world. He seemed a little sad and lost, but very sincere in his beliefs. I was intrigued and asked him to tell me more. He said his name was Ray Richardson. He had traveled from Lexington, Ohio. Ray was an amateur landscape photographer who had self-published several books on the wonders of nature. He taught himself photography a long time ago while he was a special education teacher. He was told while growing up that he would never make it as a teacher of any sort, and attended 4 different schools to make that happen. He taught children with learning differences and loved his career. It wasn't just a job, it was a calling. I asked him why he had retired from something he was so passionate about. Because, he said, he had lost his wife and grandson over the course of a year. Teaching in a public school setting didn't seem so important anymore. Not as important as dedicating his life to sharing the word and works of God. Ray walked over to his truck and rummaged through it. He pulled out a slim paperback copy of one of his books. He handed it to me and said that's how he spent his time now. The book was filled with photos of beautiful locations throughout Ohio. The book, like so many of his, were dedicated to his wife and grandson. Ray told me he traveled the state alone, mostly up and down the Lake Erie shore. His morning, afternoon, and evening devotionals were recorded wherever he felt that best represented the handiwork of God. He finished recording his afternoon prayer just as I had taken my last photo. Picking up his tripod, he turned to me and said that his main message that he really wanted to share through his work was that we must all love enough to listen to each other, listen to God, and most importantly, listen to our loved ones. He shook my hand and climbed into his truck. "Good luck with your project," he said. "Good luck to you as well," I replied. As I got back into my car, I thought about Ray. On the surface, he had a very sad story. His loss was great, more than many of us could deal with. But underneath the heartache, there was inspiration and hope. He had listened to his heart and to God, and found what he needed to help everyone else listen too. I've always thought everyone had a story to tell. Sometimes they need help telling it. Sometimes, like Ray, they were finding a way to tell it on their own.